It's not often that we're introduced to a villain as captivating and screen-dominating as Conquest. The sheer testosterone and carnage that he gives off bleeds through the screen in such a powerful way that I found it difficult to not tear my shirt off these past few days. But it got me thinking about the almost gravitational pull that villains have on us, how their time on screen is often just as important as the minutes we spend with our beloved protagonists, and most importantly, how vital it is that they stick the landing. As a huge anime fan who grew up with the big three, the impacts of shows like Naruto cannot be understated as pivotal core memories from my childhood. Now here's the hard part. The end of Shippuden really fumbled the bag with how they treated both Madara and the eventual Black Zetsu nightmare. Call it a twist villain, plot twist, or Taco Bell cinnamon twist, it doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is, the Black Zetsu asshole really shoved the series in a direction that didn't sit well with a large part of both the dedicated fan base, but also, and probably most importantly, the average consumer. The reasons why Kaguya didn't work as a twist villain can barely be numbered on the hands of Hashirama's most famous jutsu, and spending 20 minutes talking about it isn't the scope of this video, because the issues that make these failures so impactful are mired in the current anime culture in this modern era of media. So today, instead of digging up drama and piloting the baseless criticism train, let's use Invincible's most prominent villains, Omniman and Conquest, dissect their character arcs, traits, and narrative conclusions to decipher how exactly Invincible has mastered the villain archetype, and maybe to a lesser extent, what anime could learn from Invincible. There are some common stereotypical tropes we see in anime nowadays that not only undermine but absolutely destroy the impact that villains need to have in a narrative. And I don't use the word need sparingly. The importance of having impactful villains cannot be emphasized enough. Villains being redeemed at the end of their arcs, sympathetic villains who do bad things for good reasons, and worst of all, horrible twist villains. We do not need to redeem villains at the end of their journey, and if we're going to venture down to the path of redemption, the means to achieve that aren't through a single moment of sacrifice, which will somehow erase the generations of lives these villains have wiped away. Secondary to that, the redemption of the villain must propel the villain in a tangible way that alters their path forward, because that is exactly the role of an antagonist within a narrative structure, to push and challenge the protagonist. Obito, Nagato, and literally every single demon slayer suffer from this problem. Obito and Nagato spent generations clawing away at the foundation of the shinobi world, destroying countless lives, stealing parents from children, and both individually attacked the Hidden Leaf and caused unfathomable destruction. Their resolve to change the world to fit their perfect image was paved in blood, with their character arcs both ending respectively and them sacrificing their lives to push the next generation forward and atone for their actions. But what did their redemption accomplish? Was Naruto permanently changed by their actions in a way that merited changing the perception of their character? Or was he the same I'll be the Hokage heroic stereotype that he was exactly before then? Were any of his decisions moving forward altered by their sacrifice, or is Naruto always going to step forward and do everything he can to save his friends? A redemption arc will change our perception of what kind of character this villain is and determine their lasting memory in an extremely powerful way. Aizen, Mahito, or even Sukuna at no point ever stepped back and looked at their actions and wondered, do I actually feel bad about the hundreds of people I've slaughtered? No, they haven't, because that would weaken them as powerful villains, full of resolve and concrete in their beliefs. Thanos, at the end of his journey, doubled down. After snapping away half of the entire universe into dust, went back and said, actually, everyone's gotta go. Imagine at the end of Endgame, Thanos started feeling lonely because of something tragic in his backstory, and Black Widow talked him into bringing everyone back. That would have sucked away the cultural impact that Thanos has maintained as the poster boy for spoken about villains in modern media for the last 6 years. So here's where we get to why Omni-Man made for such a great villain, both in his debut season as an amazing twist villain, but also as a redeemed character moving forward. Comparing the significance and impact of Omni-Man's turn from the respected hero, father, and beloved husband into a world-dominating monster capable of viciously slaughtering people he fought alongside, to Black Zetsu stealing the rug out from one of the coolest villains in all of anime, a character who had been alluded to and foreshadowed for hundreds of chapters, a character whose name struck fear in the hearts of the most formidable shinobi of all time, Madara Uchiha, and replacing him with some random alien lady that not only we as viewers couldn't have given a rip about, but the show writers didn't even care enough about our connection to her to make her backstory canon. In the manga, she just shows up while Madara is riding the biggest ego high of his life and completely steals his thunder. Comparing these two events, these two twists, is painful, but it must be done to illuminate the importance of anchoring a twist villain to the story, and to a much greater extent, anchoring them to characters we care about. Villains need to be present throughout their respective arc, or even one before it. We need to understand these characters well enough to either have time to suspect them of some clandestine villainy, or long enough to believe that they are incapable of acting in the way they would eventually. The only way we can fully appreciate a twist villain is by caring about the betrayal at all and who they are betraying. The shock when you're invested into a character, having seen them in the best light, and having built a relationship with them through the narrative, only for the knife of treachery to be plunged in our backs, is such a powerful move that anchors and solidifies the emotional gravity that a shocking betrayal attempts to demonstrate. The question really is fairly simple. Why should we care that they are now suddenly the villain? In Kaguya's case, who was being betrayed? Madara, the villain who had been hell-bent on generations on subjugating the planet, someone who orchestrated many deaths of beloved characters across the series. Are we emotionally anchored to Madara in any way, where we'd feel sympathetic to him or his plans, or is this just the transfer of power from one world dominator to another? Secondarily, do we have any connection to Kaguya? Do we care that she's suddenly here? And even more importantly, is the opportunity cost we as viewers paid for her presence worthwhile? That being the loss of Madara Uchiha. And I think the answer is a resounding no. She hadn't been given any screen time, nor did her introduction change the events or perspective of the battle in any way. She's just another tyrant who, if not stopped, will destroy humanity. You know who would have made a great twist villain? Jiraiya. Can you imagine the amount of childhoods that would have been absolutely shattered if the pervy sage had actually been the big bad of the series? I understand how impossible and far from reality it is, but it blows my mind even considering it. And the reason is due to how emotionally anchored we are to his character. Looking now to Omni-Man. What did the world lose when he flipped script and went full Viltrumite? On a global level, the most powerful and revered protector had been lost, someone who surely gave a lot of people comfort knowing that he was around, watching out for them. Someone to look up to aspire to become. Kids around the planet dreamt of becoming Omni-Man, and his global significance could not be understated. On a personal level, Mark lost his father. He lost his idol. Debbie lost her lifelong partner, someone she had experienced the world with and had given a life of loyalty to. She lost her best friend. And what's worse, the relationship was compared to that of one in the pet of an owner. We, through the titular protagonist, were absolutely locked into the relationship with Omni-Man, and therefore we were anchored to the betrayal. We had a reason to care, because not only we spent time with Omni-Man, but we had seen him through the eyes of someone we sympathized with. But not only that, Omni-Man presents such a physical, world-ending threat, the likes that the entire planet could not rally to defeat, that there is a real and unique risk and consequence to him getting his way, and that is extremely powerful. But Omni-Man isn't just a superior twisted villain, he's an absolutely stellar redeemed villain, much like the Naruto series had tried to accomplish with Nagato and Obito. What defines his redemption, and perhaps all good redemption arcs, isn't a fixed point where they turn heel, succumb to the protagonist's most powerful weapon, talk jutsu, and continue now as a righteous person. The struggle that Omni-Man faces as a millennia of indoctrinated culture washes over him as he fights the overwhelming feelings of inner conflict between loving his son and doing his duty to his civilization. But this isn't even where his arc ends. We see him lost in the vastness of space, a broken, shattered man contemplating ending his existence. Even after rekindling his relationship with his son and founding a new family, Omni-Man doesn't just take on the role as a hero. He instead accepts that his wrongdoing has earned him death, and that is the price needed to begin his redemption. Because I don't want to piss off the entire anime community, let me at least outline one great contemporary to Omni-Man, a character who fills a lot of the same narrative roles that Nolan has. If at this point you haven't watched the series, I cannot recommend it enough, and since I don't want any of you who haven't watched it to be spoiled, I'll put somewhere on screen a reference to where this section ends. Okay, now with all of those nerds gone, let's talk about what a fantastic twist villain Reiner was. He embodied that big brother, ultra-reliable archetype that fully fooled me into believing that he was just a big dude with a great heart. Even after it was revealed that he was the Armored Titan, I still couldn't believe that Reiner was capable of those heinous actions against humanity, and something must have been controlling him. And that's exactly what a twist villain should do. I don't think a brief moment of shock is enough to justify the opportunity cost we pay for a twist villain, where we could have had a traditional one who we grew to hate more than anything. Think Mahito. Every time that dude shows up on screen, he does something even worse than he did the previous time, and through Yuji, we're absolutely locked into the hands that need to be thrown Mahito's way. Beyond the incredible setup to Reiner's reveal, the work done to humanize his character, to demonstrate the incredible weight on his shoulders, the emotional burden he has to bear, sympathizes him, and allows for his journey towards redemption begin. He had ample time to change his mind, double back and forsake his duty, but he stood fast with his strength and resolve, and despite the end goal being horribly evil, his commitment had to be respected. This all culminated, of course, with his full redemption in a time of greatest need. He stepped forward and proved his strength of character. Stepping away from Omni-Man and Madara, let's move to the other half of the thumbnail, Conquest. Conquest does one thing supremely well that a lot of anime villains fail to achieve: simplicity. I hate to dog on Naruto, but I spoke this out loud before writing the script and thought it was really funny. What was Madara's ultimate plan? Well, he had to go around the planet collecting 9 mythical tailed monsters, put them into a magical statue that is actually the husk of the 10th magical beast that can only be made when they're all brought together. By absorbing that 10th beast, he was going to become an alien god, use space alien magic that came from some fruit that a hot alien mommy brought to Earth, and reflect a magical illusion off the moon, which is actually a prison for that hot alien mommy created when her 2 half-alien sons imprisoned her. And ultimately, after reflecting the magical illusion off the prison moon, he'd put everyone into an eternal dream and they lived their best lives without war or hardship. And he did all of this through starting a war. You know what Conquest wants? That's smoke. You don't need to understand anything about the Invincible universe to understand everything you need to know about Conquest in his debut episode. His name isn't even Conquest, it's just a title that fits him so damn well that it's stuck. He's a designated agent of war, and he loves his role in carrying out global acts of terror and genocide. Conquest doesn't have lofty plans that require mixing the genetics of one clan to another, or would require him to steal a magic stone, embed it into his body, and gain incredible power. You're old if you thought about Naraka from Inuyasha, by the way. What he wants is simple: to destroy, to maim, pillage, and annihilate anything in his path. That simplicity is profoundly satisfying to watch because the scenes that he's in are more about the mechanism rather than the destination. Watching these types of characters who are simply just evil, almost one-track minded people, you are allowed to concern yourself with what is happening in the immediate moment rather than the deep implications of their keikaku. Sometimes it's just refreshing to sit down and watch what's happening on screen, turn off my brain, and enjoy the spectacle. Conquest is such a perfect representation of a character who doesn't do villainous things to achieve a morally heroic act. He does villainous things because he's an evil son of a gun and gets his rocks off to it. Frieza is a villain who is beloved across the anime community as one of the best depictions of just a really evil dude, but even he had to collect 7 magical orbs, summon a dragon, to make a wish. Of course, I'm being facetious, but the argument remains that Conquest doesn't even remotely have a goal that can be manipulated with wordplay like Madara or even Frieza, and to me, that is just priceless. You get the same impression from characters like Mahito or even Sukuna. Neither of them are that interested in the grand schemes of others around them. They're just sort of here for the ride and to dismember mankind for their personal enjoyment. There's no attempt to humanize or detract from their clear and defined role as not only an antagonist but a real and true walking depiction and personification of evil. There's nothing for us to grasp to attempt to understand them, because their methodology is so foreign and alien to us that if they showed signs of some kind of redemption, the unease we'd feel as something so sinister attempts to act in an unnatural way would immediately send off signals in our head that something is absolutely wrong, and whoever they're interacting with is in immediate and terrifying danger. Believe me, I enjoy a proper mastermind when done well, because the payoff is nuanced and layered. We don't immediately and fully appreciate the depths of their impact like we may with a villain like Conquest, whose payoff as a villain can be appreciated within the span of a single episode, because the mechanism in which they accomplish their goals isn't subtle and requires no context whatsoever. Whether it be a great twist villain, a masterclass in how to redeem one, or even perfecting the concept of pure and absolute simplicity through Carnage, it is clear to me, and hopefully now all of you, that Invincible truly understands what makes the villain archetype so damn important. Thanks for watching. If you're here at this point, thank you so much. Let me know in the comments your thoughts and theories on the subject matter, and I will absolutely respond to each and every one of you. Peace.